On today's video, I want to talk about what the Raheem Morris hire means for the potential of a Justin Fields trade, because I remember back in October saying that Justin Fields will be an Atlanta Falcon by March, but I was also under the belief that Arthur Smith would still be the head coach. And fast forward to almost February now, and that is no longer the case. So we're going to talk about what the Fields trade rumors have been like since Raheem Morris got hired as the next Falcons head coach. But really quickly, I was looking at the YouTube analytics, and we are shit pumping Saints now in subscribers this past month. And with 1 day left, I want to pour it on. So make sure to subscribe if you cannot stand the New Orleans Saints and you want to beat them on the field in 2024, which starts with beating them in January 2024 of subscribers. Now, let's talk about Raheem Morris coming to Atlanta as the next head coach and what that means for the potential Justin Fields trade. Personally, I believe that the hire of Raheem Morris actually increases the likelihood of a Justin Fields trade to the Falcons. And I'm going to explain why. Because if I'm thinking about Raheem Morris taking the Falcons head coaching gig, well, he needs to find a quarterback. That is step number one. And there's a couple of ways to do that. Free agency, not a ton of options. I think Kirk Cousins goes back. I think Baker Mayfield goes back. Do you really think Raheem Morris took this job to sign Gardner Minshew? Probably not. So if we can rule out free agency, well, that leaves us with two options: trade and the draft. And let's look at the draft for a moment, because this draft is littered with QB talent. Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, I think are all quarterbacks that if it came into the draft in different years, they all could have been the first QB taken. That's how loaded this QB class is. I'm also a big fan of Michael Penix, but I got to make sure the medicals check out. Not so high on J.J. McCarthy or Bo Nix, but I still think they are starting caliber quarterbacks in the National Football League. So, with the top three guys there likely going 1, 2, 3, the Falcons sitting at 8, I think would have to trade up if they wanted to get one of those top three QBs we just looked at. If the Bears were to trade Justin Fields to, say, the Las Vegas Raiders, they are surely going to take Caleb Williams number 1 overall. So that means you have Washington at 2 and New England at 3. The Patriots have no quarterback whatsoever. It's not Mac Jones. It's not Bailey Zappi. So they have to take a quarterback, which means they are not going to be interested in trading back from 3 to 8. So that leaves you with Washington. And I think Washington's likely still going to take a quarterback, but what if the next head coach, whoever that might be, sells himself on Sam Howell with some future draft picks by trading back from 2 to 8 because maybe they're not crazy in love with Drake May or Jaden Daniels? I think this is the only option for the Falcons to move up and get one of those top 3 QBs. Maybe Jaden Daniels slips out of the top 3 and he goes 4 or 5 and Atlanta calls Arizona or the Chargers, who don't need a quarterback, so they'd be interested in picking up some more draft picks, but that doesn't seem very likely to me. So if you're not going to get one of your top 3 quarterbacks in the draft because they are all going to be gone by the time you're on the clock at number 8, that leaves you with one option: trading for Justin Fields. I have a tough time believing that Raheem Morris will do all these things: trade up, like take the head coaching gig and go, you know what I want to do first? I want to trade away future draft picks. That's a very risky move, because if the rookie QB does not work out, you are the next Frank Reich. That's a very bold decision, okay? A big gamble. So I have a tough time believing Raheem Morris is not going to just make a big gamble on that, but also draft a rookie and then plan to develop that rookie with the young offensive coordinator in Zach Robinson, and Raheem Morris himself, a defensive-minded head coach. Like, you make all those things a triangle, and it just doesn't scream Atlanta's going to jump from 8 to 2, 8 to 3, even 8 to 1, if they even find someone willing to come back just to draft a rookie and put all their eggs in the Zach Robinson development basket. I don't know, Jim. I don't think that's what Raheem Morris is eyeing to do here, because there's not a great track record of defensive head coaches like Raheem Morris and rookie quarterbacks. I mean, last year, DeMeco Ryans and C.J. Stroud, they are the exception. Bravo and credit to them. It worked out beautifully. Mike Tomlin and Kenny Pickett, if you even call Tomlin a defensive-minded coach, it's been so long since he's been in D.C. anyway, but that hasn't really worked out. Robert Saleh and Zach Wilson, failure. Bill Belichick and Mac Jones, F. Brian Flores and Tua Tagovailoa, It's worked out with Tua, but that was after Brian Flores left. Together, didn't work out. Todd Bowles and Sam Darnold, failure. Sean McDermott and Josh Allen, that one worked out. Steve Wilkes and Josh Rosen, failure. John Fox and Mitch Trubisky, failure. Jeff Fisher and Jared Goff, failure. I mean, majority of these head coaches weren't even around for their quarterback's second year in the league, right? Looking here, Steve Wilkes, John Fox, Jeff Fisher, they were all fired the following season. So there's just not a lot of history that indicates a defensive-minded coach drafting a rookie quarterback and developing him has resulted in a lot of success. It's worked in Houston. It's worked in Buffalo. But I'm looking at a lot of other misfires right there. And those were spots where the Texans didn't have to trade up. The Bills, they traded up, so that one doesn't really count. But still, there's not a whole lot of examples of it working under these parameters. So let me know, do you want to trade for Justin Fields? Yes or no? Get in the comment section below and let me know if you want the Atlanta Falcons to pull the trigger on a Justin Fields trade. Did the Bills trade up? I thought they traded up for Josh Allen, but now I'm second-guessing myself. Someone's going to correct me in the comment section. All right, next up on the show, I'm going to tell you guys why you should buy in on Justin Fields. I know that there are a good chunk of people that are watching this video that are not over the moon about trading for Justin Fields. Let me try and maybe dispel some of the myths, have an honest conversation, the pros and cons of Fields' game, and then we'll hopefully land at a nice green pasture. But first, a quick shout out to our sponsor today, which is Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best way to take in playoff football, and with only one big game left, well, make sure you get started with Prize Picks today. Because all you do at Prize Picks is pick 2 to 6 players, then choose more or less on their projected stats, and it is daily fantasy made easy. Now, let me give you an example of what I am talking about. Take my selections for Super Bowl Sunday. I like the more, call me crazy, on Patrick Mahomes at half a passing yard. I'm feeling pretty good about that one, okay? I also like the more on Isaiah Pacheco at half a rushing or receiving touchdown. I feel like, and maybe this is just me, everyone believes the Super Bowl is going to be this air raid game. And people forget, like, they're going to pound the rock, trying to get a little bit comfortable, easy momentum early in the game. So I like the more for Pacheco at half a touchdown. I also like the more for Brock Purdy at 248.5 passing yards. It's a pretty low number for a quarterback that has been slinging the rock all over the field this year. So make sure you download Prize Picks by going to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first-time deposit match up to $100, which means if you put 100 bones in, Prize Picks turns around and gives you an additional $100. For terms apply, but first-time downloaders get that awesome deal. So make sure you visit that link. It's in the comments and description of today's video. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy. Now we can run through Justin Fields' stats to kind of begin this next portion of the show. Ultimately, if you are out on Justin Fields, I'm not going to convince you to change your mind on him because he threw 16 touchdowns last season, or in his career as a rusher, he averages 6.2 yards a carry and has 130 first downs. No one watching this video right now is going to go, holy shit, I didn't know he rushed for 14. Never mind, I changed my tune on number 1. But I do think if we look at the evaluation of Justin Fields after 3 years in the NFL, we have a pretty good idea as who he is as a quarterback. I've got some pros, I got some cons. Let's run through the pros. Pros, the running ability. He is the best rushing quarterback we have seen since Michael Vick. He is right there, if not better than Lamar Jackson, in my opinion. He's got incredible arm strength. I don't think people give Fields enough credit for his ability to throw balls down the field into tight windows with great velocity, too. He's not just throwing ducks up there, okay? Also, downfield accuracy. There is this just like stigma, or maybe not stigma is the best word, but this idea that gets cemented into people's brains of if you run the ball well, that means you are inaccurate down the field. That's the trade-off. That's just not true for Fields. He has great accuracy down the field. Now, he has tremendous athleticism. We know that well. He is always escaping pressure, and he's extending plays. He is doing a great job of running the ball down the field. There are some legitimate pros to Justin Fields' game, okay? But at the same time, there are also some cons. So let's revisit that list, and let's look at some of the cons of Justin Fields' game now that we are 3 years into his NFL career, because Justin Fields came out of Ohio State, and I think he learned the hard way about there's open and then there's Ohio State open. When you've got all the great receivers that he had at Ohio State, like Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave, they get open really easily. That's not the case against NFL DBs. So, my 4 cons for Fields. He holds on to the ball for too long. That leads to a lot of turnovers, interceptions, fumbles. That is issue number 1. Fields holds on to the ball for far too long, and he misses great opportunities. He's looking for the home run ball maybe one too many times when he should take what the defense gives him. Protecting the football. He turns it over at way too high of a rate. And I know we all just went through a season of Falcons quarterbacks turning the ball over a ton, but Fields, the interceptions and the fumbles, those numbers simply have to go down. He also struggles with reading defenses, and this kind of goes back into holding the ball too long. He's not a quarterback that can sit back there, and I wouldn't say he's unable to diagnose blitz packages or things like that. That's not what I mean by reading defenses. I mean reading defenses as in, okay, this is the look I'm getting. Well, that means I got to get this ball out quickly. Instead, he holds on to the ball for too long, and that goes back to issue number 2. Protecting the football results in turnovers. And finally, just not enough consistency. Sometimes Fields has a great second half and a poor first half. Sometimes he has 2 to 3 great weeks and then 2 to 3 awful weeks. We just got to see him put it together for a longer stretch. But if you actually put on the tape and not just look at the stats, but if you truly watch Justin Fields play, which I'm assuming most of you did when the Falcons played them at the end of the season, it's not just great moments from Fields. I think that's one of the cliches people toss around. We see great splashes. Dude, we see great games from Fields. It's not just like he has one great quarter or something, okay? But again, go back to that consistency level. We got to see those great games be stacked up on one another. But ultimately, I truly do believe the reason why it hasn't worked out to clear success in Chicago in terms of wins, the coaching staff. I think the coaching staff has done a disservice to Justin Fields. They opened up the 2023 season by making Justin Fields into a quarterback that he wasn't. As the season progressed, they allowed him to use his legs more, and then they just went to pure bubble screens the entire rest of the way, and that's why their offensive coordinator got fired. So I think the coaching staff in Chicago has done a disservice to Justin Fields, and that is why he has not been a slam dunk candidate to return despite the Bears having the number 1 overall pick. Now, I also think it's worth mentioning that he's not working with the same roster in Chicago that he would be in Atlanta, right? He'd have Bijan Robinson behind him. That is a massive upgrade compared to the running back committee the Bears trotted out last year. Drake London and DJ Moore, I would probably lean towards DJ Moore for right this moment. You know, obviously Drake London's got probably some extra years left in the tank given the age distance, but I think both wide receivers are great. I think both tight ends are on a similar playing field as well. Probably give the edge, honestly, to Cole Kmet. He has been more productive than Kyle Pitts, but I think both tight ends have a similar, I would say, attitude from the fan base towards them based on being first-round pick and a second-round pick and maybe the production not being quite where people would want it to be. So I don't think the argument for Fields being better in Atlanta compared to Chicago is he'll have more wide receivers to work with. Now, he's got decent wide receivers in Chicago too. But I think a big reason that people aren't mentioning is the offensive line increase in Atlanta compared to Chicago. I mean, just compare across the board. The Falcons starting 5 and the Bears starting 5. Atlanta's worst starting offensive lineman, if you're just going off PFF ranks, was their rookie left guard, who ranked still in the top half of guards. Chris Lindstrom was the number 1 guard in football per PFF last year. Jake Matthews was their quote-unquote worst tackle, and he still finished 30th out of 81. Compared to the Bears, who I think have a good, young, up-and-coming offensive line. Darnell Wright is entering his second year. Braxton Jones will be entering his third year. Tevin Jenkins is still on his rookie contract. But still, you've got some holes to fill at center. They just signed Nate Davis, and that didn't work well. I just think Atlanta's offensive line would be a big boost to Justin Fields, and you could have an offense like this one right here on screen behind that offensive line. Bijan Robinson, Drake London. If you keep your 8th overall pick, take Rome Odunze, take Malik Neighbors. You could even take Brock Bowers if you really wanted to. Kyle Pitts, like that's a really special group of skilled players behind, in my opinion, a no doubt top 10 offensive line, and it's probably closer to 5 than 10. So here's my trade idea. I've kind of retooled it since the last video. The Bears get a second-round pick from Atlanta and a 2025 conditional third that, based on playing time and snaps and things like that, it could escalate to a second-rounder, similar to Calvin Ridley, right? If the Falcons re-sign him after his rookie contract is up, it goes from a third to a second. So this way, Atlanta's not fully in bed with 2 second-rounders going to the Bears. So pick a quarterback for me. Would you rather roll the dice on a rookie, or do you want to go with a more proven commodity in Justin Fields with 3 years of tape on him? I'm going to say Justin Fields, but let me know what you think down below in the comments. That's going to do it for us on this edition of Falcons Today. I really appreciate those of you that take time out of your day to come hang out with us. If you're still watching today's video, we did this like a week ago or so. It worked out really well. Scroll on down, type ATL. I love to see the end of the video crew. So thank you so much for still watching, and we'll see you all later.